We go. Okay, welcome to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I'm so excited today. I've just been chatting with Dr. Marcia Martin. She is the heart healer, and it's such a special treat to have her on the podcast today. She's a spiritual empowerment counselor, but she comes at it from a PhD in theology, master's degrees in psychology and metaphysics, and she is a public speaker and a best-selling author. So lots and lots of uh, cred to back her up. And I love speaking with people like this who are very um, just seasoned in what they do, and they are experts through and through, and they can really lead us in conversation. And today we're talking really about spirituality and our angels and just diving into all things woo. So welcome to the podcast.
I am so excited to be here. I love to share the angels and all things woo, and also help people understand how practical this is. This is not spells and crazy stuff that you would read in a book or see in the movies. This is you learning how to use universal law to make your life better.
Mm.
It is not, I wish so, I hope so, maybe so. It is applying laws that are not going to change no matter how much you wish for it, learning to work within the laws so that you get the result that you are desiring instead of trying to make something up and then wondering why it can't happen.
Right. And before we hit record, we were talking a little bit about how devastating it can be to invest our time and energy into something that we think is true, and then have it not work because it's not the full story, or it's not the right way to come about. Um, when you talk about some of these universal laws, which ones come to mind as making sure that our audience knows about for this conversation?
Well, let's begin with the one that is most well known, which is the law of attraction.
Right.
And this helps us understand, first of all, we're free will beings, but we are responsible beings as well. So that means we get to choose. We're not puppets on a string being maneuvered by a puppeteer. We get to choose what experiences we take part in, but we are not free from what consequence is normally and naturally going to come as a result of our choices. So we've got to be aware that, okay, if I keep saying to myself, that was stupid, you're stupid, ha, why can't you ever get anything right? Oh, I'm so disappointed in you. This is creating around us an energy field that says everyone should view me as though I am less than. And it is attracting to us disappointing circumstances, circumstances that are going to treat us like we are not worthy. So you must get really conscious about that self-talk that you are having for yourself and as a model for your children, because you can't tell yourself, I'm worthless, and then expect your children to be able to see that you have great value. And they, in turn, have great value because, of course, they look to you to be the leader. So you have to begin with you, and you must begin within because no one outside of you is determining the dialogue that's going on in here. This is an inside job.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be able to teach that to our kids at a young age is so valuable because previous generations, this wasn't something that was talked about, right? This wasn't something that was um, accepted in the way that it is now, such that we can have these conversations with our kiddos and, not fear that they're sort of like ostracized at school or picked on because they have this sort of like, I don't know, different viewpoint than the others. It's all sort of coming full circle, which feels really, really good.
It does. It's so liberating.
Yeah,
And certainly, I grew up in a generation that was all about correction, which was really just criticism.
right.
And it was, uh, we need you to understand what's wrong with you. And this was so that I would become, or we, everyone in my generation would become better, I guess. I don't know what
Mhm.
they were going for, but that if they did not constantly criticize and correct us, then we would never get it right. And that caused me so much anxiety that I did the opposite for my children, just because it had hurt me so badly, not with any really understanding or any comprehension of what I was doing. And now I look at my children who are both adults and they are able to say and mean, wow, I'm really amazing. I
Yeah,
feel good about myself. I'm like, huh, that is great.
what a gift,
I'm
right?
so proud of you. You
Yeah,
are amazing. And I'm just thinking, they attract and always attract those higher level experiences. And even though they didn't grow up in a home that was even stable to some degree, they have so much confidence because I wanted to undo all of the pain that I had encountered.
right.
So it's amazing what love can do. They were just accepted as they are. And now that's the other law that is so important that we often overlook, which is if we are to be as the divine are, and I see them as mother and father, not just singular. If we are to be as they are, then we must act as they act. And that means unconditional love and acceptance.
Mm.
Doesn't mean you pick and choose. It means no matter what behavior is going on, you can say, well, I don't like that behavior, or you can expect that the behavior will get consequences, but the being is always loved.
Mhm.
The being is always accepted, seen as pure and perfect and luminescent. The behavior is what will receive the consequence as a way to correct it or to make you aware of it.
Mhm, and that's wonderful framework to be able to talk to our kids and use the language like, "You're not bad, your behavior is bad." I do that a lot with my kids, and they recently started saying, like, "I'm not bad." Like, "Exactly. It's your behavior," right?
Right. You are an amazing being.
That's right.
However, when you do this or that or whatever, it's not nice and people are not going to like it and you're going to not like the result.
Right.
So, why don't we help you find something where you'll get what you're looking for without the without that consequence in the middle?
That's right. That's right. Super helpful.
That consequence is not.
Nobody wants that. Nobody
Oh.
no. Um, so one thing that you are just so knowledgeable in is angels and the angelic realm. And I want to know, how did you first learn that you had this connection or could develop this connection? Do we all have a connection? What's this backstory?
I'd love to tell you that, I just knew, but that would that would take out all of those years of struggle.
Right.
That so, looking back, I can say, "Oh," but at the time, it was all just fuzz and destruction. So, do we all have angels? Yes. Constantly with us. There's nothing you can do to get rid of them. What you can do as a free will being is instead of keeping your connection loop or your connection, let's call it a tube, your connection tube clear, you can make it squashy. You can make it so teeny tiny that only enough comes through in order to keep you alive. because the autonomic nervous system is not running by itself. It is running through the energy gifted to us from our divine connection. So once that ceases, the body ceases, because the soul is no longer part of that. It no longer needs to be, it never no longer needs that help. So the body is now useless. But each one of us has the opportunity to open this and close it as we desire. So the things that make it close, of course, are negativity and toxic thinking, limiting beliefs. All of these things make us believe that we are less than. And the less than mentality says, well, I can't have this incredible help. I can't be supported in this way. So I'll just make my reality match my belief system. And we all do it. We are so powerful. We are amazing creators, but we don't often create consciously. So we might pick up the belief system. I'll use myself. I picked up the belief system. I have limited value because of the amount of correction. And also, the belief system in my home was you gain value if you are valuable to others. You don't have much. You get it because you're helpful. So I wanted to be valuable, but couldn't figure out what about me was valuable, except, I would go to a party and feel obligated to clean the kitchen. I was always miss helpful somewhere, sort of that servant, be a servant kind of mentality.
Mhm.
But it meant that I had given myself no intrinsic value. So this connection became nothing, almost nothing, even though as a child I had enjoyed a very rich inner life and also was called on that behavior as well. That was not appreciated. So that was thought of as odd and uncomfortable. And be a servant in order for you to have value were the two things I sort of took away. So I did a lot of very quiet studying, didn't want to share it with anybody. And I remember just sort of always holding the hope that it would be real,
Mhm.
that all of these things that was reading about and all of this that I was feeling could somehow someday be real. And I would flirt with it sort of back and forth, open and close, open and close. I remember in my master's program, the first one, I got into a class that was sort of existential studies, conscious awareness. And it was so interesting to me. And I got into a meditation group and we were doing all sorts of trainings and things. And it was just loved it. And I was so good at it. And I was just, oh, this is magical. But then reality set in and I said to myself, yeah, but I need a real job now. So I shut the door again, went out to work, then started on this downward spiral that would last for another good 20 years of just, I closed the book on all of this magical stuff. I would think about it every once in a while, but it just, I needed a real job. And now I have a family, I'm married, and, I gotta prove myself in the world, not in the spiritual realm that is just made up. That
Right.
is that is just, this magical thing that I can find in books and movies. And it really wasn't until I was, I guess, middle 40s that I was saying to myself, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. I'm so empty. I'm so lost. I'm so lonely and depressed. even though, on the surface, I was, yeah, and my kids thought everything was great and I've got a big show going on for the world, but I was just so empty. And luckily, someone introduced me to EFT,
Mm,
and that kind of started me back on the journey. That was what I needed. I could see enough people getting value from it, and there was a lot of information. Now we had YouTube, which I didn't have, and back in the day. So I could see that a lot of people were gaining a lot from this. So I did that for a little bit, and I started taking these other classes and just gathering information. But at that time, the money was so tight that it really wasn't reasonable to expect that I could take any kind of course or get any kind of support, ongoing support. So it meant that I had to go to the library, which was probably for me the best thing in the world because I loved libraries. I loved to read. And it was no burden for me to just sift through all of this information. And I mean, I read everything you could imagine, everything that sounded woo woo, everything that sounded intense, everything that could kind of fill in these gaps of all that I was missing in terms of understanding how to actually apply this in a real world situation. Because up until then, I wasn't really understanding that this could help your life. It was, that would be nice. Oh, that would be really great. I hope so. I wish so. But my experience has been, it just falls flat. And that I think was mostly because I wasn't understanding that there was a principle behind the practice. So I would pick up bits and pieces of it. I wanted a quick fix. And I didn't know that you needed to do deeper work before the icing on the cake would taste good.
right. That's a great way to put it.
I just, I got a hold of affirmations and I thought, oh, this will change everything. And I was very, because up until my 40s, I was completely brain focused because all of my degrees and all of my education and all of my training up until that point had been brain. If you change the brain, you can do everything. So I was, like worshiping affirmations, but not getting anything in result. And that was so painful because, first week in, I'm like, oh, I still have enthusiasm. First month in, oh, I still have enthusiasm. I'm sure that change is going to come anytime. 6 months in, I'm like, oh, gosh, maybe something will start to shift here soon. A year, and I could see that I had actually gone backward. And I was devastated because then I began applying the label to myself that said, I must be too broken to fix.
Mm.
There is something so wrong with me that these things that work for other people cannot work for me. I think that was the greatest point of heartache. I think that's what finally sent me to the library. I think I did the affirmations before the library because, boy, when I got to the point where I was just like, I so believed that this was going to work and it hasn't. So I'm worthless. This thing that I learned as a child is now proved to me that it's true. I am completely worthless and I have nothing to offer. And that was it. That was the time where I was just like, stewed in that for a while. I don't know how long, but stewed in that belief system for a while. And then just thought, I I'm not gonna end this way. My children still need me, so I can't take a free pass. I can't get out of this life. My children need me, and there's got to be an answer. There has to be something greater than this. And so that began that real serious search. And that was when I learned the responsibility component of this whole thing, which is if I was, and I wasn't, if I'm not taking responsibility for where I am, I'm assuming that it's other people and the situations outside of myself that have put me where I don't want to be, then I can never change it.
Mm.
And that was not a happy awakening. That was not, I was not excited to climb out of the victim role.
Yeah,
Because by that point, I had perfected being a victim.
sure.
Bad things just happen. And I'm such a good person. And I work so hard and I try so hard and I help everyone. But bad things just happen.
Mhm.
And then I got the memo. You're the reason.
Right. But you're the answer.
Yes. And that took me probably another 5 years to understand. Yes, I'm the reason, but I am also the answer.
Mhm.
As I played the game of, oh, yeah, I'm the reason. Yeah, I knew I was worthless. See, and we're just proving this. Didn't understand that I am the creator of both situations.
Mhm. And how do you now, how do you sort of use that knowledge in your day-to-day life and to help your like the people that you come across, the people that you work with? How do you use that knowledge of, oh yeah, I'm I'm responsible. I can take actions and all this woo stuff is true when I do that. How does that come together now in your work?
It is the most fabulous marriage I could ever imagine because they have lifted me so high and what by that I mean all of my angelic and energetic helpers, all of this incredible support team have continued to support me in my journey. So I'm not in that place of blame and shame anymore. And that's where I begin with everyone that I work with, which is, hey, you are amazing. Do you realize what you have been able to do? Let's look at what has been stacked against you up until now. You had no help, you had no understanding, you had no knowledge of all that was available, and yet you still managed to do all of this. This is amazing. Let's begin there. You are phenomenal. Now that we recognize all that you are, let's take away all that you're not. Let's take away the blame and the shame. Let's take away the memory of the times that you failed. Let's take away the criticism. Let's take away the limiting beliefs. Let's take away everything that is stopping you from stepping into all that you are. And in order to do that, we need the help of the angelic realm. Because if you try to do this work without their support, it could be incredibly painful because you must go back to the wound and look at why you created it. You have to go back and say, oh, I didn't do this to destroy myself. I did this to protect myself. But now, with all of this support that I have here, with this beautiful feeling of love and the fact that they're standing between me and this pain, I can be an objective observer and see, oh, that was really destructive. This thing that I created, not knowing better, is now becoming an albatross. It is stopping me from moving forward, or it's keeping me stuck in a toxic pattern that I don't need to continue. But I tell you, doing it without them, oh, because you got to confront all of the stuff that you've stored or that other people have gifted you. Because
Right. Yes.
oftentimes we are deeply sensitive and we suck in other people's emotions and pain, and we might store them for them because suck it in. Oh gosh, Sally, you're having a bad day. Let me just take all that from you. And you've sucked up all of her pain,
Mhm.
and it's not yours. So you may not know what to do with it. And often we will store it in places in our body, or I always say in the energetic heart space, we'll store it somewhere because we can't figure out what to do with it. But it's just there, and we're not recognizing the weight of all of this stuff that didn't belong to us, all of the stuff that has been heaped onto us through society, familial, cultural belief systems, and then all of the stuff that we may have picked up on our journey. The times that we failed, the times that we were made fun of, the times that we felt stupid, all of this is gathered in there, and it is not helpful. It's holding you in a place of confusion and darkness. And so, just little by little, we begin emptying you of this, but you are cocooned in angelic support. So you don't feel the pain, you just feel the relief. And of course, we replace it then with that higher, lighter vibration. So your old way might be, I'm a complete failure. Your new way would be, I'm a child of the divine.
Mm.
I am loved and accepted. I am more than enough. And that is what you would practice.
I love that. I love that. And I know that the listeners are just eating this up and loving it too. How can they get in touch with you and work with you and follow you and learn from you? Where are you? Is it a website? Are you on social media? What's the best place?
All over social media, but the best thing is go to our website because there are links out everywhere. I do a lot of work on YouTube teaching, keeping this practical because that was the thing that I needed more than anything. How can I apply this crazy stuff that is so far out of my normal into my life? Because this is the only stuff that makes sense, but I can't figure out how to bring it here. So I do a lot of how to get practical with this. But everything, as I said, is on our website, and we have just reformulated into a nonprofit. So it is the Heart Healing Foundation. I am the heart healer. It is the Heart Healing Foundation. And we have pay as you can or what you can for our group. Or if you want to work individually, it's a set fee for the counseling. But we want to open it so that absolutely everyone can receive what they need, and you pay what you can. Or if you're doing great and you want one-on-one, you pay that higher fee, and that keeps the groups going.
Yeah, and that work where you have that sort of focused attention and support, that can be so transformative. So I'm gonna make sure that all of the links are in the show notes to this episode. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your time today. It's been such a gift.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so delighted and honored to share this because it has transformed my life. Truly, when you heal your heart, you will transform your life because you are the creator of the world around you.
Ah, such an amazing thing to remember for all of us.